Well, hello. Uh, Welcome to yet another little video of mine, a little tutorial, a little how-to. And I hope the noise is bearable. I can't tell from this side of the recording, but there's a lot of noise today. But what I want to share with you today is how to tie a tree ship. So what is a tree ship, I hear you ask? Now, I can show you a small scale variation. Like this. This is an example, which is basically a small stool in this case, or a basket, depending on the direction you hold it in. But this is a shape that I call the 8 eyes. It's a tensegrity structure where the entire structure is held together by knots and rope. And just the other day I did a sorry, that's better. The other day I shared with you how I grew this one, how I prepared these branches, in this case elder branch, elder tree, and in this case the pattern I'm using, the technique, is the same as if I do bead structures that you may see in my other videos. It's the same with paper straws or whatever, pipes. It's a very good, very good pattern, but it's not necessarily easily applicable to every material, because it kind of needs a bore through the branch here, which doesn't naturally come with every material. But if I do want to do this with branches, twigs, trees, I would go with this technique where I'm tying the branches that I call fingers, these vectors. I'm tying them together with triple clove hitches. So if you've ever done a clove hitch, this is the version with 3 loops. And in this case it's a 1,008 eyes, but we're now just going to make just doing an 8 eyes. So for that I've got these here, brown pieces of wood, and they all came in the same, they were all the same piece of a trunk of a tree that I've chopped off yesterday or the day before. And I have to admit that I haven't been chopping trees in a long time. This was a tree that had already died, and I was left with that little bit between where I've chopped it, which was as low as I could, which wasn't necessarily easier that way, but there was that piece from there to where the tree came out of the ground, and I cut that off subsequently and then split it into a dozen parts. So first in half, then the halves in thirds, and those in halves again, so that I got a dozen, which after that I rounded off with my drawing knife and carved the ends round with my carving knife, more or less round, and I've oiled them with linseed oil. And what is now the case is that some of these are very small or fiddly, because I actually broke one of the pieces in the process, and I had to split one of the bigger ones in 2, so that came out a little small, but it's good. It's not gonna have to carry a body. I don't think it's gonna be a seat in this case. It's just gonna be nice, and this is still very strong because all the fibers in here are intact, because it's known I've only gone with the grain in creating these. So if you've come across Taoism, the Chinese, I guess, philosophy. There's a lot of talk about Li, which is the grain of wood, the grain of marble, of jade, of our muscles and all that. And it's generally considered wise to follow along the grain rather than go against it, which would be how we generally create constructs in our manufactured reality, because we cut the trees into boxes to make boxes of them. And this is with almost complete disregard to the grain and the fibers. I mean, not to be too harsh, like actual carpenters and people, they know their craft and the grain and everything, they keep that in mind. But working only with splitting wood and axes is something that has come out of fashion, and there's few places where people still do it, like perhaps those who create or recreate Viking ships, or a friend of mine who's an archaeotechnician, as they call them. He's working with this all the time, and he helped me a little with this, because my experience on splitting wood is somewhat limited still. Alright, that's already almost 7 minutes of me talking. Let's do it. So what we're doing today is we're taking this line, which is a hemp line. I don't know how many, perhaps 3 strands in there, and yeah, it's a very nice line, and I'm gonna tie this. And I hope I tried before in recording this, I tried it from a different perspective, and that didn't work, but I hope like this I can make it work. So you see, I'm right-handed, so I'm gonna take these things like so. I have the branch that I'm working on, playing with, turning around on my left hand, and the line on the right, and I'll leave a little bit at the end of the line, so I'm not working exactly with the bitter end, as they call it in knotting, but I put this on top of the branch here, hold on with my left thumb, the one that's holding the branch. It's a bit of a pity that the camera doesn't like to focus in on here, but here I'm holding on to this with the left side, and my right hand takes the line, which comes off the spool, so I haven't cut it yet. We'll do that after we've tied the knot. And I take the working end of the line with the open hand, I turn it over, right, like so, just once, and I create a loop with that. And the loop I drop over the branch, over the finger here. And by doing so, I create a loop that is actually locking itself, like so. For reference, if I had just put it around, this is not locking. Or if I had turned it the other way around, which can also happen, this kind of looks awkward. All of this is fine, but not for the thing that we want to do. Excuse me, I'm just barking with the dog. Yeah, so we're doing it this way, and we're doing basically what is a clove hitch, but we're doing triple, so we're doing 3 loops. So the first loop I showed you is like so, and draw that tight, and a second loop, like so, and that I can already, tighten a bit, but it's still easy to move. And back in the days, I actually used only clove hitches for this, and I learned quickly that they are unstable, they loosen themselves or each other. Whereas if we do a triple one, like do a third loop and put it over, this is a knot now that does not really untie itself. It does, if I need to. It's the easiest thing in the world to loosen or take off or change or readjust. But in itself, this is a stable system, so insofar as the only thing that happens if I put tension on this is that it gets tighter. It's not going to loosen. That's a good thing. Okay, so we have the first finger in place, and to make an 8-eyes, all we need to know is that we need 4 fingers for every corner. So let's go. Let's take a second one, and I put that next to the one that I've already tied. And now it's the same thing. I take the working end, turn it over, and put the loop over my end of my finger here. Kind of draw it as close as I can to the other. Try to keep it nice and level, and then do a second loop. Readjust, wiggle a bit. This is the kind of stuff where my hands know more than I do, because they've done this a few times and they kind of found some ways. Now the third loop, oops, and that's that. You see, what we're doing here is scalable. If you have big branches, you can do it with them, take larger rope, but the whole thing is scalable. And if you are doing this on a larger scale, or you really want to get it tight, there's a specific tool called a marlin spike. This one is mine, which is used to tie and untie knots. And there's a marlin spike hitch, as they call it. It's a little knot that looks like so. This is my standing end of the line, and I put out of frame. Here's the standing end of the line, and now I put my marlin spike over the line, wrap it around, pick up the standing end, and feed that through here. And what that gives me is a knot that helps me to really, really pull this tight as I could ever. Okay, but when I slip out the marlin spike here, this just goes back to nothing. No more knot. Just so you know, like if you're playing with this on actual treeship scale, something like a marlin spike or even another finger that you can use for that really comes in handy, because then you want to try to get the knots as tight as is possible. The tighter the stronger, or the more stable the structure. It's not going to be unstable just because it's loose, it's just there's going to be more play in it, it can move more, right? But the tighter we draw the knots, the less the overall structure has play. Okay, third one. So next to the other two, put the line on top, pick up with the right hand, and drop one loop over. Oops. And then a second loop. And tighten that up, make it neat and nice, put it where you want it. Also, if you have too slippery members here, like the branches, if they are too smooth, for instance, or you're doing it with bamboo or something, sometimes there needs to be something there. There's one thing is tuning the materials, tuning the line to the kind of members that you're playing with is very good and happens over time. And another thing is that I could carve in a groove, for instance, so that this can't slip off, because it's not going to loosen itself necessarily, but if it's too smooth, then the whole knot can slip off the branch. We don't want that, so yeah. I'm not worried with this one because it's so uneven, and I think the combination of the line and the branches is fine. Alright, number 4. And remember, for the kind of structure that we're growing today, the 8 eyes 4 is all we need. Isn't that neat? So you see me doing 2 loops now. Sorry, I will eventually stop bubbling on. For now, I still comment what I do. That was the second loop, and now we do a third, and that's that. And that's all the 4 fingers we need. But to get them into being a corner, we want to close that loop, like the cycle around this corner. So to do that, I take the working end of the line, and I'll move it in between the first 2 fingers, right, like so. And when it comes out on this side of the first finger, I'll just treat the first as the last and do the same 3 loops again around it to finish this corner, right? So like that. That was the first loop. That's the second. And number 3. Okay, and then I like to just, just to be on the safe side, I suppose. I don't think it's necessary, but I like to do it nevertheless. I do tie these 2 ends together with a reef knot, like one overhand knot one way and then an overhand back to where we started. And that's that. That's the first corner. And now we can cut off the excess line. And before I do that, I tie another little string around it with 2 constrictor. Sorry. Oh God. That was the salad. I'm putting on 2 constrictor knots here so that I don't lose the twist of the line, right? Because a line is basically also a system of triangulation. Like every rope that has more than 1 strand, every single strand consists of fibers that are twisted, spun basically together one way, and then the whole strand is spun the other way and spun together with another, or maybe 2 or 4, whatever. And that has the whole structure, like one level of frequency of the structure is the strands all twisting one way, and then the next they twist the other, and that way when we tense the line, they're all working like a knot, interlocking. And now I put the constrictor knot on here. I can clip off the small stuff like so, and that's a whipping, I think, whipping the line, or in German takeln. And the lines, the standing and the rigging on a tall ship or a sailing ship in German is called Takelage, because of the takel, I think. Alright, side notes. Let's clip that, cut that line off. And you see now that we've just gotten back to where we began. We have the thing that we're growing, and we've got the line coming from its spool. And we have not needed to use any more of the line than what was necessary. So we have no waste. Okay, next corner. But before we go to the next corner, I want to show you the nesting or turbining that happens in these corners, because what they do, the branches, is they get close together and they twist like so, and you can either twist them one way or the other, left or right hand, whatever that is necessarily in that case. I like to do mine twisting like my left hand side. So when I have these meeting and passing by one another, I want to see them pass by this way, right? So if I look at that, oops, it looks the way that my left hand looks. See that? Like this, the thumb is on the pointer, so if that was my thumb, it's lying on the pointer. And I really look at my hands all the time while I'm doing this, because I don't need to know it conceptually, I just need to make sure that over the whole structure all of the corners twist the same way, because then I keep the pattern integrity and the entire structure will have a pattern integrity in its overall weave, which we'll see in a second. And second is a good segue, because now we are going to do the second corner out of six corners for the 8 eyes. So we just pick one of these branches, these twigs, these fingers, go to the other end of it. Now I hold on to this sort of like as if I'm holding from the inside of the corner here, from the inside of the structure that I'm growing. Okay? And here, now we'll return to the line, and we'll just do the same thing. I'm going to talk less about it, I'm just going to do it now, because otherwise this is going to take ages. And you see me do 3 loops for one clove hitch. There, pulling that nice and tight. So in that corner that we already have, there's one branch that wants to spin. That's the last one, the first one, because by feeding in the line between the first and the second finger, I basically did a little twist in there, and it wants to untwist, and I don't want that, so I'm kind of keeping an eye on that. But don't worry too much about it now. We've got the first finger in place. Let's take another branch, put that next to it again. You'll see you need to fiddle a little with them because they get in the way of one another, but basically it's the same game all over. We'll just do our 3 loops, because 3 times the charm. And you see the second one is when I really try to get this as tight as I can. And with the third I kind of lock it and can move on to the next branch. Okay, 2. Next one. Put it next to the first, the other 2, and do our first loop. And the second. And the third. Okay. Nice. And one more, because we want to grow 8 eyes, which has 4 fingers for every corner. And loop number 1, loop number 2, and number 3 for good measure. Okay, nice. And now we can close off this corner, and we do it the same way as we did on the first one. So I'll take the working end of the line and feed it back through underneath the first and the second finger, like so, and then I'll treat the first finger as the last and do another triple clove hitch on that. So I'll do 1 loop, pull that tight, do a second one, and a third. Pull that tight. Yeah, you see how this is doing what it ever wants, so we'll take a look at that in a second, but first let's close this one off. And again, I'll finish it off with a reef knot here. So I'll do one overhand one way, and then go back the other way. Nice. And back to the constrictor knot part. Like, if I wouldn't do this and I cut the line, last time I told you in the last knot how the line is really this balance of having the fibers twist one way, spun one way, to then gather and be spun the other way together. And all of that spinning, it's the same thing that happens in our corners here when we are minding the pattern integrity of the weave. Same thing happens in a line, and all of that twist is locked in the line for as long as we keep the line locked on the ends, so to speak. So to not have it unravel and fray, we're basically tying little knots in the ends of the lines that we're creating when we cut it, before we cut it, so that these knots keep the fibers together, the strands together, so we don't lose the twist. And there goes the little line, and there goes the big one. Now that was number 2 out of 6. Now I'll take a look and try to reorganize this corner. Yeah, that's good. Okay, and again we'll try to have all of these corners turn the same direction, right? So I said I'm looking at my left hand side here, so I have that twist this way, and on this side, yeah, that way. That's fine. And by doing so, now if I go to the third knot, the third corner, I'll pick, let me think. Okay, let me pick this one. That goes with this. No. So this is when the two corners are turning the same way. What we get is that this finger is going on top on this side. This goes under here, goes over there, and this one goes under here and under there. That's not what we want. We want them to look at the triangle and always have this kind of under over. So this one corner needs to twist the other way, or does this? We'll see. That looks good. That looks weird. This one is twisting the wrong way. So we'll take it that way, I think. Like so. We'll see in a second if I'm on the right track here. I hope I am. For our sanity's sake. But I mean, it does look like it, I think. Does it? So this whole thing I'm trying to maintain here with the pattern integrity. I did a video on pattern integrity, or integrities in plural, and spoke a little about that. The thing is, I don't... Sorry, after half an hour the video stops. I was going to say that I don't necessarily have to maintain the pattern integrity. I could do the shape without the pattern integrity, and it would be fine. It would still be an omnitriangulated structure, because it's an 8-eyes, that's in its nature. So it would be stable, but maintaining the pattern integrity, keeping it in mind, being aware of it and bringing it into the structure helps tremendously with the strength of the overall thing. And that's why I do want to keep it. And right now you see this pair of eyes that I'm holding onto here, and if you follow any one of the triangles in a circle, you'll find that the branches always pass under one and over the other. And that's what we try to maintain throughout the whole thing. Okay, now I take one of these. I'm going to go for this side. And I'll take... You see, now I'm looking on the outside of the structure that I'm growing. Now I turn it so that I look on the inside of it. And I begin with the left-hand side again, with this branch. And that's where I put my next triple clove hitch, tying my next knot. And you know the drill, not a drill, you know the game, the dance. 3 loops, keeping them nice and tight. And now, that was the first, that's how quick it can go, if I don't have to talk about it all the time. Now the second side, the second branch, still needs to be maintaining the weave on this, so this one goes over here, under here, over here, under here, over here, under here. That's cool. That's what we need. So we want to have it here, lying on top of the branch that we've just, the finger we just added. I get the working end of the line on the inside, like this, and from there on it's the same thing as with the first one again. Just doing 3 knots, 3 loops. 1, 2, 3, and that's that. Getting them nice and tight. And this is a triangle now. That's not solid, it's not static, it's nothing of the kind. This is truly alive and kicking. It's actively holding its shape now. And that's what we keep on growing. So we have 2 fingers present. We need 2 more. And well, I won't worry too much about these other things, they just move about a little for now, but in time they will all get caught up in the whole thing. Alright, I put my 3rd finger next to the last one I tied and do my 3 loops. 1, 2, trying to get these neat and tight, which is, you know, increasingly difficult. That's a general principle at play, because these structures get more and more complex as I put all the members in place. And all along the way it gets more and more difficult to manage until the last one. The last corner is done, the last knot is done, and suddenly the whole thing becomes one. And then it's not difficult at all to manage anymore, because the whole is one unit. See, now we have 3 fingers, let's add one more, number 4. Here. 1 loop, 2 loops, and trying to get them close. I really like the German term for this, because in German tightening a knot is called dicht holen, which is just beautifully poetic, because dicht is to get close, and holen is to dicht is close, and to holen is to get something. So I'm getting this close, as close as I can, because after all, synergetics is all about closest drawn spheres. 4 fingers in the corner, that's all we need. We close the corner. We take the working end in between the first and the second finger. Now we see that we're actually going through the eye, from the inside to the outside. And with that, we're back at the first branch, where we treat it as the last, and do our final triple clove hitch around that one. 1 loop, 2, and number 3. Aller guten Dinge sind 3. That's what we say in German. All good things come in 3s. There. Nice. See, now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Half a dozen turns. Now we do our reef knot. One way, and then the other. Continuing with our constrictor knots, which are really very closely related to the clove hitch. It's almost like this is a clove hitch now. What I do is a double one, not triple. What I do is that I take the playing end and go through the first loop once more, so that I'm basically doing an overhand knot in the middle of that clove hitch, which gets locked in place. And that is a very, very strong knot that doesn't want to get undone. And I'll do a second one next to it. 1, 2, going through that first loop. And that is that. Whoop. Okay, on to the cutting. We're taking this one and that one, and then that one, and that is number 3 of our knots. Our corner's done. And when I organize this, if I do organize it a little, we can kind of see a pattern here, like these want to organize themselves like this, right? And even there, we if we turn it out around again, we see hopefully that now we've locked in our first triangle with the pattern integrity in place. So this branch goes over here, and this goes under here, and over there, and under here, and over there, and around in a circle. Perfect. And next, another corner. Actually, we've got halfway done already. That's good. So let's pick any one of these. I'll take this one. And I'll pick the next like these two are already done. I go around my corners and pick the next one in the line, this one. And that's gonna go together with this. Okay. And while we maintain the knot, the pattern integrity, oops, you see, this is on top here, under here, on top here, under there, on top, under there, all around. So we're doing the same thing once more. Actually, the way this looks, let's go not with this corner first, but pick another, because I want to pick a corner where I already find 3 of the fingers present. Okay, so is there one? Let me see. No. It's all just 2 now. Okay, then we can stay with this one for now. Really, they are the same. I shouldn't... Yeah, never mind. It's always good to check along the way. Okay, we're back at this. We've just checked our triangle here. I haven't let go of that. It's all right. So I take the left hand branch, the left hand finger, and that's where I begin my next corner. Same. I'll leave a little, do my 3 loops. 1, 2, 3. Nice and tight. Cool. And now the next one that I had just lying next to it, putting that on top of this, like so, and same thing, 1, and 2, and 3. And as I'm doing this, just another side note from what I gathered so far by doing this a number of times, is that the little bit that I leave at the end of the finger, where I'm not going to put this knot in the very end, because then it's just going to go. I put it a little off, but this is roughly as much as the things are big, are like the diameters of the branches, because then they arrange nicely in the corners without slipping or losing the twist in the corner. So number 2, number 3, because we want 4 fingers for that corner. So this is the corner I'm tying. I'm putting the number 3 just next to number 2. Do my 1 loop, 2, 3. Do be careful if you're working with lines. I learned the hard way. By tightening them, this is okay, this is not gonna cut me, but anything smaller than this, if I were tying this kind of line, there's a high chance that I'm gonna cut my fingers with that when I pull it tight. So if you really want it tight, do learn the marlinspike hitch, or wear some protective gloves or something. Coming to number 4 of this corner, and putting that next, doing 1 loop to catch it, 2 to attach it, and cut it nice and somewhat tight. and number 3 to keep it safe and secure. And with that we have 4 fingers. We close this corner, we take the working end of the line, go through first and second finger, through that eye, through the triangle, and do another final clove hitch on the first of these fingers. So first loop, second, and third. Okay, on to the square knot, which I don't like to call square knot. It's a reef knot. There's nothing square about it. It's actually 2 4-eyes. One 4-eyes. It's going one way and then back the other. Next is the constrictor. Oop. Okay. And the second one. Right there. Cool. Looking nice. And we cut that. And we cut that. Boop. It's good to go. Alright. This is beginning to look like a mess. But that's fine. We'll keep going. And for the next corner we already will find 3 of the fingers present. So I think I'm gonna go with, let's see, perhaps this one. So that's the last corner I did, and I'm gonna go, these 2 are already tied in place. I'm taking the next one around the corner, this one, and that's gonna grow together with this one, which is gonna go on that side, and then finally the third one, which is this. Okay, so 3 of 4 is already in place, and all we need to do is tie them together. Cool. Let's go with the first one. Remember, that's the one where I got from this corner, and I took the 2 that were locked in place, and the third one, which around the knot, the next one. And this is what we're now gonna turn around. Take turns. Okay, so again, I'm basically twisting so that I'm doing my knot on the inside of this, on the inside of the structure here. Same thing as before, 3 loops. Oh, look, I'm trying not to have these go over one another like that. I want to have them next to one another, like so. And tight, nice and tight, perfect. Next finger, we're coming from this here, and we're taking this one from the next corner, and this goes over here, this goes over here. Let's have this one go over this one, And when we turn it back on the inside here, where we're doing the knot, we'll see, that's the first, this is the second, and it's the same way it was with all the other corners before. I'll do my first loop and my second loop-de-doop and number 3. Nice and tight, very much, and fine. Let's take the next finger that's coming from this corner. You see, I've got this one in check, that goes to this corner, which goes to this corner, which is where I pick the next finger and a line. I'm not going to take this, that's going to go another way. I'm going to pick this one. Okay? And I want to have that go this way. Just the same as the others did before. Turning it on the inside. Here's my working end. I'll do my first loop. 1. Oops. 9. 2. And 3. Over top, like that. Perfect. Nice and tight. I keep saying that, I know. Cool. That's almost done. We have 3 out of 4 fingers in this corner in place. So now that's actually the last one out of the 12 that isn't yet connected to the structure. So we're getting much closer now. And I'll put this one again next to the last one I tied. Here, next to that. And I do my 1, 2, trying to get that tied together, more or less. And number 3. Okay, yeah, something like that. And now we have 4 fingers, we close this corner, we take the working end in between number 1 and 2, come out of that corner here, turn this over and do our final final 3 loops around the first finger again. 1. I hope I'm not getting out of frame all the time now. Maybe I'll go here. It's a bit more direct in front of the camera with the face, but perhaps it shows better. Okay, 1 and 2. It's getting a lot almost crowded in that place. But that's the fun part about this. We're really getting as close as we can, you know. No need to get any closer because it's already critical proximity, and no 2 lines could ever intersect in universe and space-time. They can only interweave and interfere, and that's what we're doing here. Okay, that's my 3. See? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fine. Reef knot. 1 way back and 1 way forth. And another piece of the small stuff, so we do our 2 nice little constrictor knots here. somewhere there. 1, 2. Cool. Chop, chop, and that one. Oop. Okay, I see we're getting close to the hour. Maybe I can do this before then, because we're almost done. We just need one more corner to do. And, well, all the fingers are there, present and accounted for. So now we just need to make sure we get them all tight together. Let's see. If I don't speak about it, let's see how long it takes. So everything I'm going to do now, you've seen 100 times before, or at least 5 times before. And let's see. Okay, 1. Now I'm hurrying. I shouldn't be. The universe never hurries, and yet everything gets accomplished. I'm just... yeah, 2 more minutes. I won't worry about this. If it cuts off, I'm just gonna restart, and it's gonna be more than an hour. Now we've gone all the way here. We don't need to be hurried on the last bit. Because another Tao Te Ching wisdom is mind the end just as the beginning. Otherwise, the end always has the tendency for us to do a little mistake out of hurry, and then all is done, all is gone. Okay. That's that. Okay. As I was saying, almost done. Reef knot, and then that's that. Okay, so, well, I suppose there's still a little bit slack here, and if I really wanted to, I could try to get that out. Perhaps I can. Now that we've got another half an hour before this video cuts off, no hurry anymore, but don't worry, we're not gonna take it that far. I'll just do this, try to get this a little closer together. So you see, now I'm undoing 2 of the loops, because the first one's the first one's the one that I can kind of perhaps work tighter, but I don't think it is possible. This is already tight. Alright, so number 2. And last but not least, number 3. Oops. Okay. That's cool. And now for the reef knot. One way and the other. And the constrictor. And I suppose one could be using constrictor knots for the whole thing instead of the triple clove hitches. But I found those to be really nice. Like, it's perhaps the most versatile knot in my repertoire, and I'm super, I'm super happy I tried it and found it good. But I'm also somewhat, I find it strange that it's not used more. Like, it's such a reasonable thing to do, I think, and still I haven't really come across anyone using a triple clove hitch for anything before. I wonder why that is. Oh, sorry, I keep running my forehead into the camera here. Okay, that's my 2 constrictors. And clip 1, clip that, and clip our line. And with that, we've cut our umbilical cord, and our newborn 8-eyes is done. Whew! That was quite a fun thing. Again, if I hadn't explained everything about it along the way, it wouldn't have taken as long. So I can now create one of these, like the tying bit at least, in a very short amount of time. But you can hear it's a sound system, and it's a tensegrity, yes, but this one is now currently so tight that it's not actually moving much. Here's a little play, but very little, very little. This is super strong. I wouldn't be surprised if I could sit on it, and if I did, I would probably try to orient it so that I'm not sitting directly on one of the slimmer ones here. But even that, I wouldn't be surprised if it actually helped me. I don't weigh as much. But yeah, this is how one turns a single piece of wood taken from this, that bit, that long, split it into first halves, then those into thirds, and those into halves again, so we get a dozen, rounding them off, creating a whole lot of these beautiful chips. Wo gehobelt wird, da fallen Späne. And all that, after that, rounding off these corners, oiling the wood, and tying our knots, and that's all. And from here on, there's many things we could keep doing. We could weave in a web, like a kagome. That's what I generally do on the tree ships to be sitting on. like this, and we could add more triangles to it, increasing the frequency and whatever. Lots of ways to play with this, but this is the general principle. And now just one more check on the integrity, the pattern integrity. We can turn the whole thing over, and every one of the triangles should look like this. So what goes under here goes over there, goes under, this is under here, over there, and so forth. Right, so that should be maintained over the whole thing, which also goes together with these corners, all of them twisting one way. And you see how it's my left-hand side here? Now, I haven't tried with my handedness to twist them all the other way around. It might work as well, it might work better. I'm inviting you to give it a try and let me know what you find. But for me, it's the easiest to remember. I hold on to the branches with the left hand, the right hand is the one tying, and when I need to check the corners, I look at the one hand that holds them in place, because whether or not it's the only way, it's a way that I figured that works well, and that's all I need. And that's how one ties tree ships. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please let me know, leave a comment, perhaps subscribe. There's a bell, I've heard. But really get in touch, you know, ask questions, look at the rest of the videos around here, and let me know what you think and what you can use these for, because these are useful for more things than we can imagine, and they haven't been in use, generally speaking. And yeah, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed the ride. I hope you enjoy the site, and I hope to see you soon. Peace be with you.